Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined, as always, by the boy.
Hey.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and we are experiencing another edition of the Gauntlet.
Yes, indeed. We mentioned last time that we wanted to do more of these, and an excellent reason to do so came up recently. It's Batman Day, everybody.
Roughly a few days ago, if you're listening to this when it comes out, but over the weekend, it was Batman Day, Batman's 80th anniversary. That's really fucking cool. So, we did a series of challenges themed around things that would be adequate challenges for a Batman, and in theming with what he does. And as well as picking exclusively Bat characters. And I think we all picked Bat Family, actually. Yep. Well, or Batman.
Extended. You went extended.
I went extended. Just to remind you of what the Gauntlet is, in case you haven't seen the last episode, we go way more into it there. So I would recommend checking that out. But we do 6 rounds of fictional things. Us and a team of 4 fictional characters who have to get along, go through these challenges of movies, books, TV, video games, whatever. The rules. There are 7. I will be quick with them. Any physical equipment they have and mana/resources are replenished between each round. Non-fatal injuries are healed between rounds. They can't take anything with them between rounds. They know the setup of this experiment and why they're there. They have to get along. We can't use a character again after a set of challenges is completed, and the winner of the challenge gets a token to bring back a former teammate. The boy is in possession of a token right now, but he did not use it this time.
I didn't need it this time. We're doing all bat people.
There we go. Of course, the boy and I are also on the teams individually. We are not bat people.
But we will take ruthless knowledge and advantage of our meta-knowledge of situations.
Yes. I suppose we should do the teams first, huh?
I believe so. I believe that's how we should do it.
I've been talking a lot. Why don't you let us know what you've got?
Okay. So my team for Batman Day, I couldn't have a Batman Day celebratory edition of the Gauntlet with Batman-themed rounds without Batman. So I chose probably the purest incarnation of the characters, for me at least, and that is Bruce Wayne Batman in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon.
A good Batman.
Ultimately, it's always a toss-up any given day of the week between this animated series or the original Justice League. In terms of which, by original I mean the DCAU version. In terms of which version of Batman is like the truest for me, because they're all voiced by Kevin Conroy, so really, they kind of all are. But I went with Justice League Unlimited because he's the one with the most experience with team-ups with other super people, and he has a lot of experience as a leader, whereas like the Arkham Asylum games Batman doesn't seem to have as much. He has a much more contentious relationship with his subordinates. So I went with DCAU Justice League Unlimited Batman. Now, I think all of my characters are from cartoons rather than the comics themselves. I have been getting back into DC Comics recently because I got DC Unlimited and they have a lot of backlog I've been meaning to read for a long time. But I wanted to grab just real specific versions that I could, get specific character traits, because most of these characters have been around for ages. So I didn't want to grab like just a general this person, and there's like 20 different versions of them that all do different things. So I went with specific in terms of the next 2 are both from the same cartoon, actually. I chose Oracle, Barbara Gordon, and Nightwing, Dick Grayson, both from the most recent season of Young Justice Outsiders, otherwise known as the reason I got DC Unlimited. And for the final member of my team, I was toying around with a couple different people, but ultimately I settled on all Spider-Men being good Spider-Men. It is Batman, Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond.
You went all cartoons and I went all comics.
Yep.
And I actually went with some of the more obscure Batmans.
Yep.
Y'all know me. If you've seen me do a Batman-related podcast or talked about anything like that, you know the Batmans I'm about to mention. Except maybe one. That's a little bit of a surprise. And he's not actually a Batman. So he is extended Bat Family relatively recently, however. So leading my team, because God, no one else is going to, is Batman Thomas Wayne from the end of Flashpoint, when he's a little more well-adjusted. Bringing up, I don't know, the street crime portion of it is Wayne Williams, Stan Lee's Batman,
Which was a nice ringer pull from you. That's neat.
I was thinking of a lot of them, but he was in the back of my head hiding, I guess, until the time was right, until I deserved him, until I earned him. He's basically just Batman, except he's a wrestler, not a ninja, and he can fly because of his swell wingsuit.
Because Stan Lee likes cool things.
And night vision goggles, I believe. We have Azrael, Jean-Paul Vallée from Prime Earth, where he's the badass-looking gold Batman with a flaming sword.
Yep.
And we have Talon, Calvin Rose, freshly escaped from the Court of Owls, unmurdered by Bane. Speaking of which, anything we talk about in this podcast, if you haven't seen it and you get a little worried, expect spoilers, because we're going to be taking them through the plots of these movies and stories and whatnot.
And we're going to, and also expect spoilers for the things these versions of the characters are in, because we might need to bring up, reasons why we think they would do well or badly.
So as usual, we each chose 3 levels of the Gauntlet. We discussed them beforehand to put them in an order of difficulty so that it ramps up nicely. And, here we are.
Start off round 1 with we both sort of went with similar theming. We picked one thing that is a fight, basically just a meat check. Can you do the fighting necessary to defeat this situation? One that is much more indicative of Batman as the detective, and then one which is an overall superhero sort of business, just as like a well-rounded sort of affair. So, with that in mind, he's bringing up stuff up.
Yeah, notes.
I went with the fighting round first, and I grabbed a fighting round that I honestly don't think either of our teams is going to have severe issues with. I think it's a tough fight, but I don't think we'll lose either of us, honestly. And I'm confident that we can make it through. And that is Tekken 3. Your team collectively takes the place of Jin for the Tekken 3 plotline. That is to say, the team enters, and one of you has to win the third King of Iron Fist tournament. And defeat True Ogre, survive the subsequent assassination attempt by Heihachi, and beat him.
That's a rough one.
It's a tough fight.
Yeah.
Look, the fighters in Tekken 3 do not fuck around. There's robots, and a kangaroo, and... I think it'll be a tough fight, and also, you have to remember, it's a tournament. Only one person wins a tournament. So you're starting off with the members of the team potentially fighting each other.
That's theoretically true. I think I would like to organize my team into 2 parts.
Okay.
I would like to have the actual guy doing the fighting.
Okay.
And then I would like to have people who are there to throw off Heihachi's assassination attempt. And then maybe do the final battle, because that's not part of the tournament.
No, and now there's the battle with True Ogre. He wasn't in the tournament.
Right, he just sort of showed up.
The tournament was actually a setup to draw him out, because Heihachi wanted to imprison him and use him for evil means.
Yes.
Because he's Heihachi, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
But yeah. So...
Heihachi, why are you building that really good-looking sandwich? Evil means!
Who's your tournament entry?
I'm going to cheat and throw Talon in there because he can't die.
But that doesn't mean he can't lose a fight.
No, he can lose fights. That is true. But he is an incredible assassin. He's not as headstrong as Azrael. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the rules on flaming swords. Like, missiles are okay. Yoshimitsu has a sword.
Yeah, Yoshimitsu has a sword that literally bursts into flames at some point.
So that's... Well, no, but see, between rounds, though, he will regenerate.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to stick with Talon as my fighter. And then Azrael, Batman, and I, me not there, just letting them know what's going on and hoping they take care of it. We'll send them after Heihachi and try to thwart that plot.
Something I want to bring up before we get too far into this. Some of these require very specific... They're tests of the ability of the Batman as a detective. Mm-hmm. That becomes very problematic to test when one member of each team has near-perfect meta-knowledge of what's going on.
Well, I don't have near-perfect meta-knowledge.
No, not of this round, but of later ones.
I have meta-knowledge of a couple of them, but...
Specifically the detective rounds.
All right. Moratorium on our meta-knowledge involvement.
I think, for the purposes of
For the purposes of this exercise, yeah.
We might have, vague stuff, but it'll be, the most we'll get is if we'd never seen the thing in question.
You know what? Honestly, here's the thing. We're not Batman.
Right.
Maybe we're just not in this one.
Typically, the idea has been to include us, but I almost like the idea of not including us this time because it removes meta-knowledge in a very clean and pure way.
Mm-hmm. That is the only superpower we possess, after all.
And since we want to test the Bat families as detectives in later rounds, I like that idea. Yeah. Kind of inaudible, but I wanted to bring it up before it became a problem. I think because it's not a problem in Tekken 3.
No, it's not a problem. I mean, like everyone and their brother, all 4 of my Batmen, even the one who's just a wrestler,
would look at Heihachi and go, "What's that guy?"
That guy's eyebrows are currently plotting to kill me. So yeah, in that case, I would hope my Batman would not decide to infight. I don't think they would. I think they've got enough.
If they specifically know the situation.
Yeah, they know the situation. They know there's a tournament, and
that's fair. That's absolutely fair. I don't feel like you certainly wouldn't lose anybody, especially because the guy who's doing most of the fighting is immortal.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to mention. If the guy is specifically noted as comes back to life over and over, how do you lose a round? He'll get there eventually.
I mean, knockout probably. It's not like they kill people in Tekken.
No. I mean, like in general.
He can still be knocked out.
That's true for like this round. Yeah.
Yeah. He can still be knocked out.
Yeah. So. I don't think this is a big problem for you.
No.
Honestly, it's not a big problem for my team either.
No, I mean, really, I could have subbed anyone in there, and we probably could have.
You know who does my fighting? It's fucking Batman does my fighting.
I mean,
unless he feels like it would be better for one of his proteges, because he has 2-3 proteges in here. That's the other reason I picked the team I did. All of those people have good relationships with Batman.
Yes.
This version of Nightwing doesn't have the tension that exists between comics Batman and comics Nightwing. He has a good relationship with Bruce. So does Oracle. Very good. They get along super well. And Terry has always had a contentious relationship with old man Bruce, but in the few times he's time traveled, he's actually gotten along quite well with current Bruce. And they've literally met.
Yeah. So my team is Team Eggy Boys. Originally, my mock-up included Spoiler and Tim Drake.
But then I pointed out that they wouldn't get along so well with the other two.
I think certain points in her life, Spoiler would be okay, but also at those points in her life, she had a lot of other shit going on. And
Tim Drake super wouldn't.
No, he he would do that thing he does with Batman, where Batman's being a stick in the mud, so he goes and solves the crime himself. Except he would do that because these guys are all assholes.
Yeah, and I don't feel like hanging out with you. You suck.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I like about Young Justice Outsiders is we started off with that team being young, and now that they've sort of grown up by season 3, they're all adults, and they're actually kind of well adjusted. This Nightwing is super well adjusted.
That's awesome.
But like for my team, any of them, Oracle might have some trouble in the tournament itself.
Well, but as I pointed out earlier when we were discussing the difficulty of this, while the canon victor of the tournament was Paul Phoenix, you can also beat the game with Dr. Boskanovich, who is an old man who falls down.
Like, I don't feel like there's much of a... Like, Batman is certainly good enough to win the King of Iron Fist tournament. And since the final battle against True Ogre isn't part of the tournament, there's not rules. They just all fight him.
Yeah, fuck it.
And Oracle will have figured out Heihachi's bullshit, like, by round 2.
yeah, that's good. I figure I've got good detectives on my team. Good enough that they can figure it out. Azrael was a Batman for some time.
And he wasn't a bad Batman until the murders.
Yeah, I mean, he was a good Batman in terms of detecting. And then he did a murder, and Bruce was like, no. That's the one thing I asked. God damn it.
To be Bruce is to suffer. So round 2?
Round 2 is, to be perfectly clear, we both get through that just fine.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows.
And this one becomes much harder without either of us there.
It does.
Because they know why they're here, and we don't have meta-knowledge, but there's no thing saying the characters don't. And I know damn well that Batman, Thomas Wayne, and at minimum, Jean-Paul Vallée all know who Sherlock Holmes is.
Yeah.
So if you drop them into the Sherlock Holmes universe, even a version they haven't seen before with some differences, they're gonna know it's Moriarty.
Yeah, it becomes a game of tracking him down and
Proving it
and outwitting him, or if it's my team, just beating the shit out of him because they can.
until he gives up. Because look, Moriarty's a very talented fighter. In this universe, he is actually a more talented fighter than this universe's version of Sherlock.
Who's quite a talented fighter.
At least when they fight. I believe Sherlock is injured at the time.
Yeah.
But he's a very good fighter. He's not Azrael or Talon or fucking Batman. That's the thing. Sherlock Holmes is always noted as being a very talented practitioner of Baritsu.
Yeah.
But his stories are much more about the mental side of things. So long as they're good enough to catch Moriarty, the physical side of the confrontation isn't a problem.
I mean, it's like the end of that one episode of Rick and Morty, really.
Yeah, it's just... my team, I think, goes about it much more by the book. Oracle, goes in and just... It takes her longer, I'm sure, by hand, but she has the math skills to prove, to find all the records of Moriarty's criminal enterprise.
Well, and you have Oracle and Default Batman.
Yeah. Well, Default Batman, Nightwing, and Terry can all be on the trail of actually catching up to Moriarty, putting a stop to his scheme, to war profiteer, taking down his enterprise, and beating the shit out of him once they've gathered up enough evidence that they can give it to Scotland Yard and get him arrested. Your team literally is the end of that episode of Rick and Morty, where just Thomas Wayne approaches Moriarty from one side of the street when he's feeding the birds, and then Azrael approaches Moriarty from the other side of the street when he's feeding the birds, and then X Gon Give It To You starts playing, and then they just beat the ever-loving fuck out of him and mug him in the middle of the street for his little red notebook, because who's gonna stop them? Not him! And not anybody else!
I feel like my guys will take longer than yours to figure the plot out. Mm-hmm. They'll get there. They'll get there in a reasonable amount of time, even. But I don't have quite as good of detectives as you do.
I have Justice League Unlimited Bruce Wayne. I have a pretty high tier, not top tier Batman, but a high tier Batman. I wouldn't use a top tier Batman, because top tier Batman are just fucking OP.
Yes. That will roll us along to the next challenge, which is the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. In this version of the challenge, you replace the Ninja Turtles and April. And
we never covered the Sherlock thing. You replaced Sherlock as well as Watson and Co in that.
Yeah. Specifically those changes because there's a lot of B-plot stuff in the first half of the movie that's really unnecessary. We're basically picking up at the big turning point where it's time to go kick some ass.
And thus, ass shall be kicked. I actually feel like your team does way better than mine in this round.
There's a lot of fighting to be done, and I've got some heavy hitters.
While I have, the one Batman who was... he's a super Batman who can turn invisible and has rocket feet. And can fly. He
becomes very useful against Cyber Shredder.
Yeah. But the rest of them are just, they're superheroes. But they're just regular people. They're just very tough regular people.
Yeah, and we do need to remember in the 2014 Turtles movie, the Turtles are not just
regular people.
They're
super soldier
level. They're super
level.
soldiers.
They're one of them gets thrown into a Hummer and the Hummer breaks.
God, that was a cool scene. I forgot how cool that movie was.
That can't be overstated. Is one gets thrown into a Hummer and it's the Hummer that breaks. I feel like my team makes it through. I don't feel like there's a case to be made that they lose anybody.
No, honestly, because of Oracle especially, I feel like you're going to unravel that whole Eric Sachs plot. She can probably stop any nefarious shit he's doing remotely.
With the exception of the tower, where you have to fight Super Shredder to stop it. But, it's a tough fight. But, at the end of the day, Terry McGinnis has a fucking Iron Man armor that's made of super nano cloth. I feel like they can take him. It's just going to be a very tough fight. Yeah. Whereas by contrast, I think your team does actually better. You've got more people with powers, first off, and you have Jean-Paul Vallée.
Yeah.
Who is who is Cyber Shredder. He is Cyber Shredder.
Yeah, kinda.
Like, it's just two Cyber Shredders fighting while Wayne Wilson and Thomas Wayne handle the fucking super genome thing. And Calvin Ross, I don't know, like, watches? Rose, excuse me. Like, it's just two Cyber Shredders fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, by the way, metal AF.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Even splitting up like that, and I didn't consider your Oracle being able to take care of the sax thing remotely. That's
basically, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure Oracle at the very least has, like, as part of her standard gear, some of her computer shit. Especially Young Justice Oracle, who is very good.
So I believe that brings us to our next challenge.
I believe it does.
This one requires a little more setup, because there are a little more specifics involved, as you
Because
mentioned.
some of the plot falls apart if you replace the main character.
But this challenge is Spider-Man Far From Home.
With the following caveat. You replace Spider-Man, Happy Hogan, and obviously Spider-Man's supporting cast is still there, but they're just on vacation and not connected to you, so they probably don't get rerouted. So they're not involved in a big part of this.
Happy teenagers.
And you replace this... do we want him to replace the Skrulls, or...
I feel like the Skrulls is important. I
Okay.
feel like... Now, I believe the very important part is that you replace these characters about halfway through the movie.
You replace them... Actually, you know what? No. I say you keep the Skrulls, and here's why.
Okay.
Because it makes it harder for the people we're challenging. Because you...
because all the information isn't at their fingertips.
All the information isn't at their fingertips, and you come into the movie with... After, through whatever means, Quentin Beck has convinced Nick Fury, air quotes, that he's trustworthy, and so that Nick Fury, air quotes, has given him Edith. We'll say Nick had it beforehand.
Sure.
And he's given it to Quentin Beck to trust him going forward. Because I know, he wouldn't. Spider-Man in that movie was kind of a moron because he's a teenager. But just bear with me. Through whatever means, Quentin Beck has gotten a hold of authorization for Edith, and the Nick Fury of this universe, the current one, is still on his side. So he still has good PR.
That's true. That's true.
Your team drops in place of Spider-Man at that point and has to stop him.
Which gets... That's pretty rough. And I feel like a lot of it's pretty easy. Not easy, but a lot of it is a regular challenge for our Batman. And honestly, I really feel the biggest trick of it is the final battle.
I disagree.
Okay.
I feel like the final battle might be the easiest part.
Really?
Because, for both our teams, there's at least one person on our team who doesn't really give much of a shit about illusions. For my side, Oracle could probably do something with the little... that version of Oracle gives the people she works with little special contacts that give them, like Edith, alternate reality, like adaptive screens and stuff, like a HUD.
Okay.
She could probably do something to help mitigate it. And I also have, like, Terry McGinnis with his super future suit.
Sure.
Who could probably just, switch to, like, ultraviolet spectrum. There are the drones. And then I shoot them with my rocket feet. The hardest part's actually going to be twigging to the fact that Mysterio's a bad guy in the first place.
Oh, okay.
Because if you think about it...
He's got really good cover.
He's got really good cover. If you don't replace the Skrulls, there's no reason they'd know he's anything but a superhero. And they don't have Mary Jane or MJ on the case to show them the proof that Peter sees that originally twigs him to that being a problem.
At the same time, you have Batman Prime.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible.
I
think they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I have confidence in your team.
But I think that's the hardest part.
That's fair.
Because once they discover it, look, Mysterio's tough. But at the same time, Azrael, there's no chance those illusions cause him any problems.
I don't know, man. He was literally plagued by illusions of his father yelling at him for a long time.
He has, I'm thinking ninja skills. He can definitely fight blind.
Sure,
but
it's going to psychologically take its toll on him.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't know much. I don't know how Thomas Wayne fares. that the Court of Owls assassin. I think the big difference here is there's nobody on this team except maybe Stan Lee's Batman who's gonna have a problem just murdering Quentin Beck.
No, certainly. I honestly.
So once they twig to the fact he's a bad guy, they just wait for him to show up somewhere and shoot him.
Pretty much. And it will take some doing. I'm not sure exactly how the plot falls down there. But Quentin also has a huge ego, probably around the time where he...
That is an Avengers level threat.
Yeah. Around the time when things get big, and it's not like my team is stupid.
No.
They're just not as good as Batman.
They're not Bruce.
Yeah, they're not Bruce.
Or Tim.
Tim was so close to being there, man. I do love me some Tim Drake. But they will figure it out eventually. And if they don't figure it out up to his big final display, they will figure it out at his final display. There's too many shits that go wrong.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. I feel like the final battle won't be easy, certainly.
No. I don't think I'm going to lose anybody.
That's the next thing I was going to ask, is do you think there's a case for either of our teams losing someone?
I don't think anybody gets dead.
I think at the end of the day, like, worst case scenario, Talon takes a couple bullets to take out Quentin and then regenerates in the end.
And that may be what ends up happening. Talon's definitely the one doing the job there. Maybe Wayne Williams' sweet-ass night vision goggle things are helpful in that sense.
Yeah.
To locate which one is actually...
Well, also,
Quentin.
a big part of the problem in the final battle was that Spider-Man can't fly.
No. And
Like,
Wayne Williams can fly.
One of the things that is so funny about Spider-Man Far From Home is that this would have been a slow weekend for Iron Man. All right, Friday, just turn off the illusions in my HUD. Thanks, cool. All right, well, fly around the drones and shoot him. There we go. Okay, bye. Back to mimosas. And, like, in that sense, I don't think my team's going to have much of a problem.
No, I think you guys are all right. I think we each have our struggles, but
they're in different stages.
Yes, definitely. All right, well, that moves us on to one of your picks.
Yeah. I was going to say literally the one we just did. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. You replace Cap, Black Widow, and Falcon. You're dropped into the beginning of the movie, right about the time Nick Fury is murdered, so that you know there's a problem. And your job is to figure out what the problem is, first off. Take down Pierce, stop the helicarriers, and survive Bucky. I say survive Bucky because I am not someone who has ever really signed on to the idea of the Bat God. I know that in a straight-up fistfight between Captain America and Batman, Batman would lose. You know how I know that? Batman said so when he fought Captain America. There are panels, look them up. So, and since Bucky and Cap are pretty well evenly matched, in the end, it was a fight. I don't think Batman, by himself, beats the Winter Soldier. I think all four of them together could, but there's other jobs to be done. And there's a very tight time frame. It's like, what, 3 days, that whole movie?
Yeah, it's not very long.
And they don't have the insider knowledge necessary to start figuring out Hydra. So it's a very tough detective job. Mm-hmm. And it's a very tough gig, this movie. I think it's going to be a real challenge for my team.
I feel like your survive Bucky comes down to Terry.
Basically, it's that one of them can turn invisible and fly, and is bulletproof and fights dudes with super strength who punch him in the fucking mouth and he's fine. Like, the Batman Beyond suit is not, it is not infallible. It's not even honestly as powerful as an Iron Man armor. But it is strong enough to 1v1 the Winter Soldier. But it is also vulnerable to things like shocks and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it might be one of those things where halfway through a fight, Bucky throws one of them little Black Widow discs at Terry and fucking locks him up for the remainder of the battle. But yeah, no, I feel like this is a very tough round for my team. For your team, the question honestly is, Do you think that they figure out the problem? Because you don't have something like Oracle, who is just covering the whole internet trying to figure out what the issue is and track down what the problem is, and doing like data analysis and trending to notice Hydra's bullshit. And then Bruce being there.
I feel comfortable with Thomas Wayne and Jean-Paul being able to figure that out,
especially because Jean-Paul has a certain, and Calvin both have a certain level of experience with cultish.
Yeah, Calvin's probably going to
secret societies, trying to rewrite history and take over the world from the shadows. I'd say Calvin Rose might have a little bit of experience sniffing that sort of thing out.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I also have basically a Falcon.
Yeah,
I have a flying guy with cool goggles.
You have Falcon. You have a flying black guy with cool goggles. Who points at Batman and at Thomas Wayne and goes, "I do what he does, just slower."
I feel like it's, this is tough. I would love to see it on paper, or rather in a movie or in a comic or something, because wow, what a fight. I think with the Ringers, man, even Azrael, that's pretty rough, especially the specific Prime Earth Azrael. I think they'll be.
He's
okay.
Cyber Shredder.
Yeah, I think we're cool.
I think Cyber Shredder versus Winter Soldier is a fair fight.
Well, and I've got Talon sitting there who's like, "Hello, I can't die, thank you."
You know what? I like that story. I like that story for the idea that Bucky kills him like 4 times throughout the movie, and he's like, "Stop shooting me!"
I think, again, we have our different struggles. I think your detectives are going to figure this out a lot faster. I think you guys are going to be able to damage control,
I think my team's going to have a lot easier time taking down the helicarrier.
Sure.
Once they get to that point, I don't think that part's going to be hard. It is fighting Bucky and getting enough proof together to out and take down Hydra. Because they're not insiders, and specifically the Young Justice people have a history of not being very fucking good at that. And Justice League Unlimited Batman, at the end of the day, he wasn't able to take down Amanda Waller.
Right. So, at the same time as well, I don't have super hackers. I really wanted to get a tech person in there, but I couldn't find someone who was a good fit for the team.
Yeah, and that's part of the challenge.
And I do have I have Thomas Wayne,
who's not bad.
Jean-Paul, who was a Batman for a while, hacking is part of that.
He wasn't really he wasn't that. He wasn't
that much, but it's not like he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. I'd say honestly, probably Calvin is your big,
just by infiltration and like getting physical
just
evidence,
like not hacking, just old school statecraft.
Old school.
Just being a fucking spy.
So I think that would take way fucking longer for my team and be a much harder uphill battle. Literally taking down the helicarrier, not a problem. We'll just blow it up.
Well, that's the thing, is part of the idea is that once they're up in the air and active, you can't really. Because they're flying and invisible and they have, like, super artillery that kills everyone who's a problem before they become a problem. Do you think your team can do it before the helicarriers get off the ground? Because they've got a very tight time frame to work on.
Assuming that they get there before the helicarriers get off the ground, I think they could manage it.
Same. The question is, do you think they get there?
That's rough. It's a different story. It's not the same path. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially because of the lack of pre-existing insider knowledge. Cap could tell stuff was up because he knows how things work and, twigs to things.
But if they're replacing Cap, they have, the Nick Fury, they show up, Nick Fury gives them the thing and says, "Don't trust anyone," and then gets shot in the fucking chest.
Then again, this is the second time Nick Fury has ruined their day, so... They may have, because of the last experience, gone, wait a minute.
No, I remember this moron. What's not...
That's interesting, and I didn't consider that. In our ordering of this...
They've already met a less competent Nick Fury, so would they trust him when he says, "Don't trust anyone"?
Well, and they're also in a fucking post-Winter Soldier world.
Oh, shit. Yeah, when they go to Spider-Man Far From Home, Hydra is a thing. They make jokes about it. Like they make jokes about Thor. He used to be a legend, and now we study him in my physics class.
Yeah.
And S.H.I.E.L.D. is dissolved, and they would look this up because they'd have to get context on the world, and they show up and, S.H.I.E.L.D. is great, everyone! What about Hydra? What about what now? And you know what? In that sense, thanks to our ordering, I think your team might have a much easier time of it.
I think we got lucky. We're absurdly lucky.
Because I was about to make the case that your team legitimately doesn't stop the helicarriers because they don't get there in
We
time.
might not. I mean, that's true.
But with the ordering that we went with, and we agreed on this ordering beforehand.
No, yeah, sure. I
think your team gets extremely lucky because they just go straight to the Triskelion and fuck up Robert Redford.
Once again.
You're the problem. My team goes through like the ninja way of getting the proof, outing them, trying to take them down like they would, given the characters that they are and how they do things. And then there's a last minute, race as Batman calmly has already gotten rid of the things necessary for the helicarriers to launch. He did it like yesterday. But like they survive Bucky and there's a big fight. Your team just go and give it to you as Robert Redford in his office.
Yeah.
Just bursts in, flaming sword.
Well, and even your team, they would want to mitigate damage as much as possible. And it's not like my team's a bunch of renegades, period. Like, I am pulling these characters from when they're at their best, when they're at their most heroic.
Yeah.
So, they're going to try to do things the right way. But at the end of the
day,
if the entire government is about to fight you, you can be like, bitch!
Slip slap! We haven't mentioned any of the other things that Cap fights because aside from fist fighting a jet, that's not beyond any of them, and one team has a Cyber Shredder and the other team has Spider Iron Man in it, so we're good. Granted, neither of the Thomas Wayne and Bruce Wayne can't fist fight a jet, but Terry and Azrael can, so...
I think Thomas and Bruce at least would try very hard to fist fight a
jet.
Yeah.
Cap beat that jet's ass.
Yes, that is true.
He slapped up that jet. Clapped them cheeks.
So that brings us to our final round, which is a round of note. I did not mean for that pun to happen, and yet here we are.
I don't believe you.
Because we both went for the three-pronged approach. Completely independent of one another. We wanted to do a superhero thing. A
much more fighty thing.
Yeah, a ninja thing. And a detective thing.
And when apparently, both of us, and this makes sense because we've lived together for my entire adult life, when we think terrible detective challenge, Death Note came up to both of us. So we had to, what did we end up adding in?
Sherlock Holmes was our audible.
We had to agree on Sherlock Holmes together because we both had Death Note as one of our rounds. And that's the thing. You replace L and Watari. People are dying. No one knows why. Figure it out. And you better do it fast.
Yes, because the real challenge here, it's a detective story is something any given Batman will eventually figure out.
Yeah, basically. If you have a Batman, any Batman will figure out Light Yagami living in Japan, the police chief's son is Kira. That will be a piece of information any given Batman will get inside a month.
The trick is figuring it out against Light figuring out the identity of any of your people.
Because it's the final round, so it's not like you're losing things in future rounds. But once he figures out the identity of any of your people, the rest of the people on your team know everyone on your team's name. So he could just write in the Death Note, this person writes the legal names of all of their teammates, mails them to this address, and then dies of a heart attack. It's
rough.
And so...
at this point, I'm kind of glad that they took us out of the equation because my name's fucking everywhere.
Well, that's the thing. This is something I wanted to bring up. This isn't like a slam dunk for Light unless one of a couple things is true. These are extra-dimensional people.
Yes.
They're not from this universe. Light can't just Google them.
Right.
But, simultaneously, if we treat them as extra-dimensional beings, that means that we have an unmodified Death Note universe in which Batman exists.
True.
So if Light gets the tiniest idea that Batman is after him, he's gonna take a small bit of notebook paper's worth of space to just test a theory out.
That is true. So this is something that maybe needs to be done in secret. We have depended on this before, assuming previous knowledge, and Light is an incredible counter detective, a mastermind, if you will, an eater of chips.
And I think that's the more interesting way of going about it. Because you could do a version where, we insert Batman into the existing universe and, Light has to figure out Batman exists, he's in America, who is Batman. That's not interesting. Because he's never going to figure it out.
No.
Because my team has Oracle on it. Best of luck, dickhead! But I think it's more interesting that these are fictional characters who exist as fictional characters from another country. Light's not amazingly familiar with American literature.
No.
But he's not unfamiliar. So if Man with Scalloped Cape begins following him around and he notices, he's going to Google. And then he's going to try a theory out. So this becomes and this is the reason I wanted to pick it, is it's very much a detective story and very much a ninja story. Is your team of Batman and Bat Family adjacent people better enough than Light to run clean against him?
That's the final question there. And I think it's basically what's going to decide who wins this game is who has more left standing.
Because I don't think either team, honestly, makes it out of here without one loss. I don't think either team makes it out completely clean.
I think I might have a little bit of an edge. See, that's tricky without us being there. A little tricky, not impossible. It depends on how fast they realize they are fictional entities within this universe.
And for my team, that's within the day.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a problem with that, and I think Oracle's going to be great for counterintelligence. But I feel like the only way they're going to learn is if somebody goes down. And I feel like I've got a shot, I've got a buffer of time because of Thomas Wayne.
Because if he sees Batman, he's going to try Bruce Wayne, and it's not going to work.
No.
Bruce is not there.
So that's going to send Light into one of those, if that's not his real name, then what is it? I must know! That's also another question is, and I forget what it's called off the top of my head, the Shinigami sight thing.
The eyes.
How far is he going to get pushed before he cops to that?
Fun fact, I actually read an interview with the creator of Death Note. He admitted that at the end of the day, White was never going to take that deal. Or Light was just never going to take that deal.
Really?
He would have never taken the Shinigami eye.
Oh,
He would rather die.
What a great thing to read for this specific exercise.
Misa, however.
Yes. Who, and how soon does he meet with Misa? And do we get distracted by Misa?
Does the team get distracted by thinking it's Misa and then taking her down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a hell of a challenge. We have no problem taking them down, I feel. My team, we're fine. But
at the end of the day, he's a mildly athletic high school student.
And a pop star is the other one.
Yeah, no, sorry, buddy. You lose a fist fight.
I have shot you with fucking bat shurikens from across the street. A black dude in a wingsuit has kidnapped you in the night.
That's the other thing, is L had a harder challenge than our teams do. L, for personal ego reasons, needed to win. He needed to prove to a legal standard that Light was Kira and arrest him and convict him. So he had to be running like the 100% pure fucking amazing legalese run. We have Batman on our team. It's really just, it's Light. We're all sure it's Light. Cool. And then Batman sneaks into his room in the middle of the night and punches his fucking head until he's asleep, searches his room, finds the notebook, and just fucking burns it. Or puts it in his bat vault, which he has built in the time he's arrived in this reality. Or shoots it into fucking space, or whatever. That's what is required. It's a lower bar, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I feel like my team has an even lower bar because So long as they feel good enough about it.
Well, the question for your team is, do they get distracted by Misa Misa, who is at the end of the day way more easy to catch?
Yes.
And do they manage to find Light? Because he's not bad at covering his tracks. He's just not good enough to hide from L.
Yeah. I feel like
also the other thing is it would be harder for our teams to it would be harder for them to find Light in the first place. Easier to take him down once they find him, but harder because they're not nearly as ruthless as L is.
That is true, but I feel like they would be driven to greater ruthlessness by the specific nature of these crimes. This is exactly the kind of thing that any Batman worth their salt would get up off their ass about.
I don't know that L draws Kira out by getting somebody killed.
Right.
Nobody on my team's going to do that.
My team doesn't give a shit.
No. So my team has to rely on the better detective skills combined between Batman and Oracle than L and Watari. And I think they can do it. I just think it'll take them longer.
Yeah.
I think
either way, we've got a higher death toll of Kira's deeds.
Because higher death toll, but a shorter time frame. Because there's no universe where Batman plays a 6-month cat and mouse game with Light Yagami. It is a 2-day cat and mouse game until he knows it's Light, and then he bitch slaps him.
And I feel like maybe my team might sit on their hands for a minute just because, well, he's just killing criminals.
Yeah, you know what? Wayne Williams might have a problem, but literally everyone else in your team is... I don't see what the problem is.
Well, but I feel like once they cop to the understanding of how easy this is, once it becomes a pattern and they're like, someone out there is just doing this.
Or that they know to get back to their own universes, they have to take out whatever.
Sure, yeah. They
okay, this is clearly the thing, right? We are all agreed this is the thing they're sending us to fight. Yeah, I mean, I don't see the problem, but I mean, like, he's between me and my home universe, so... Sorry, kid. Nothing personnel, kid.
I can't say exactly who I lose. I feel like... I feel like Talon and Azrael are probably the easiest ones. Talon, there's been a bunch of Talons, so I mean, he's going to have to write a bunch of sentences, but that takes, 5-10 minutes?
Whereas, like, Thomas Wayne is obscure enough that he'll write Bruce, and when it's not Bruce, he'll jump to Dick. He's not going to think of Thomas Wayne.
No.
He's not familiar enough with American media. I think for me, it's probably Bruce.
Yeah.
Because Bruce has the most iconic outfit.
Well, but like you said, when you get there, unless Batman goes out immediately, you guys will probably know first.
Yeah.
That what's up and what's going on and that you exist in this universe. So Batman will be able to go out incognito.
Or in a different costume.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I feel like if anyone's on the team is going to get got, it's probably going to be Bruce. And what Bruce might do is arrange a situation where he does go out as Batman and then gets Light to kill Bruce Wayne on TV, and then Batman dies, and it doesn't work. Because that's not what he calls himself. And Light Yagami, being the person that Light Yagami is, wouldn't try Batman first.
First, no. I think.
And then if he has proof that Bruce Wayne worked, if he saw Bruce Wayne die of a heart attack, it's a gamble, because if Light had picked dies of throwing himself off a building, and Bruce Wayne pretended to have a heart attack, then he's got a problem, which is why Bruce might be the first to go.
Right.
But that is the exact sort of crazy, ridiculous bullshit Batman would try to prove to himself that it was Light.
And I think also it would be a fantastic part of the story. Like, I could see that playing out in the anime in that sense. So
yeah, where, like, he goes out in costume, and you're like, why is he doing that? As you're watching at home, and then Light does twig to it. He tries, Bruce Wayne dies of a heart attack, Bruce Wayne dies of a heart attack. On screen, you see it, Light sees it, and then later on in the story, when Light has been brought to justice as in a jail cell, Batman comes up to him and goes, that was a closed-circuit television. It was only ever going to you. I knew you would pick a heart attack.
Or, vice versa, he writes down Bruce Wayne gets hit by a bus and Batman dies of a heart attack, and he's like, wait a minute.
And then it does the zoom and the zip pans from Gap Notice. He writes, Batman dies.
I don't think he'd twig to that immediately.
No.
I think it would take him a while, and he would like go mad searching on the internet.
For why didn't it work?
And his dad brings him home a Batman doll he had imported. He's like, you've been doing good in school. You've had a hard time lately, son. Here, have this. And he's like, no, Dad, it's not about that. And yeah.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. But I think if anyone gets got, it's Bruce. And also, partially because if anyone was going to get got, Bruce would make sure it was him.
Yes, that sounds like
Gentlemen, it's been an honor.
Yeah, I feel like Calvin and Jean Paul are the easiest targets. The other two are super obscure. I don't even know that he would think Wayne. It's so like
no, he's not fucking getting. That's not happening.
No.
There are literally characters in Batman Incorporated he'll roll through.
Oh, sure.
Before he gets to Wayne Williams.
I think also, like, if he were existed in this universe, Wayne Williams would be the first to go. Like, if he was a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was a wrestler, and while he wore his mask all the time, there's paper trails.
Like, he was paid as Wayne Williams. Yeah, that would take light at lazy afternoon.
Yeah. Googling in a couple of phone
But
calls.
I think both teams in the end take light down. I think it is a hard-fought victory, and I honestly say that Bruce has like a 50-50 shot of not making it out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how he would want it anyway. So, at the end of the day, in terms of who's more likely to walk away clean, it's your team.
You really think so?
Yes. All of those guys are way more obscure.
They are.
And it'll take them longer to figure out who Kira is, which is actually good for getting away clean.
Because if they're not on his trail and they're not criminals, then why is he going to be fighting?
He's not going to be looking into them. If he thinks they're not close, if he doesn't know they're looking for him, and he thinks they're not close to finding him, and they're not criminals, they're fighting criminals, in fact.
Yeah.
He would consider them natural allies. And the longer Light goes on, the more egotistical Light gets.
That is true. That is a good point.
He gets very cocky later in the series. So, yeah, I think honestly, of the two, your team has a better shot of getting away clean. Bruce Wayne being on my team is actually a problem because he's a much better detective than anyone on your team. But that's a problem because L was immediately on Light's radar.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was immediately Light's top priority. Light would not rest until he figured out a way to kill L. And Bruce is a crazy bastard. So, I think honestly, if I had to pick a winner for this one, I would go with your team. Just by their powers combined, they are more likely to walk. I don't think either team walks away clean, really, but I think it's slightly more likely for your team.
I honestly, in my estimation, I think we would walk out even, personally. I think we'd walk out each losing one person. Because of what you said. Now, if it weren't for that fact, and it's a very good point to bring up, I would think I'd lose two. I think Azrael and Talon would be gone.
But they're just too obscure.
They're just too obscure, and they're, because of the big amount of time that happens before they would even bother fighting him, they've got more information on Kira than Kira has on them.
And at the end of the day, they aren't my team. They aren't going to bother really double and triple checking before they go beat up a 16-year-old. Batman, Nightwing, Oracle, and... Terry would just go do it, but he would take Bruce's orders on this.
I'm also 16. It's fine.
Whereas your team, Thomas Wayne will bitch slap a motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
And let's not bury the lead here. Wayne Williams is the only guy on that team who has not been a terrible murderer at any point.
A guy died near him.
Mm-hmm.
It was roughly the end of the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I figured. Don't tell Harry. But yeah, no, I think Kira wouldn't see them as enemies. They wouldn't see Kira as an enemy until Kira became an enemy, at which point he wouldn't last long enough to figure out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because they would go, it's probably Light Yagami. We have all this information. We've put it together. I'm Thomas Wayne. I'm not as good as Bruce, but I am still Batman.
Well, and we even without their signature outfits, like my dudes are 2 of them are highly trained assassins.
Yep. So it is just Light Yagami walking down the street, going to college one day, and then he gets shot in the head by a bat shuriken that chops off the top of his head. Problem solverino.
In the interest of having a winner,
I'm going to say you.
In the interest of having a winner, if this point of this exercise were not to have a winner, I would say it was a draw, because I really feel like somebody goes down.
Same, at the end of the day. But I give the slight edge and likelihood of a clean run to your team, and therefore, by that very paper-thin margin, you win.
Well, I will take my token, and I will hold on to it to my chest, and where my bat symbol goes.
I think, and that brings us to 1-1. It's all tied up, ladies and gentlemen.
We will return to the Gauntlet in the future. We have so many ideas.
And this is very fun.
It is just a great... These are our longest podcasts these days. What a great idea to start this, and thanks again to the person who originally came up with it, which the note is somewhere in the description.
It's on the first Gauntlet thing. Good job.
It's in the description.
Good job, Reddit man. Everything's better when nerds talk about it. Fuck it!